Arjuna, this is a great sin. We are prepared to kill our own relations out of greed for the pleasures of a kingdom. It is easy to see why Arjuna represents you and me so well. For with a few well-chosen words, he is able to point right to the cause of our disrupted relationships and increasing insecurity. With dismay, he tells Sri Krishna how he fears the devastating consequences of not keeping in mind the unity underlying all life. For personal pleasure and profit, we are willing to sacrifice the welfare of our family and friends, our society, and environment. In Arjuna's time, it was greed for a kingdom. In ours, it is greed for a higher salary, a prestigious home, and a partner who will always agree with our opinions. As long as we seek to be lord and master over our petty personal kingdom, we bar the door to the Lord of love within us, and confusion and chaos reign. This is the inevitable consequence of violating the unity of life by attempting to go our own separate way. The Bible tells us we cannot love both God and Mammon at the same time. And in the spiritual tradition of India, great sages like Sri Ramakrishna will remind us that for Rama, the source of abiding joy, to come into our lives, karma, the craving to satisfy our personal desires, must go. Our capacity for joy is so great that going after passing pleasure is like throwing a peanut in an elephant's mouth and expecting him to be full. We are so trapped in our self-willed existence that we do not realize how clouded our judgment is and how tragically we waste the gift of life trying to acquire another car, which will pollute our environment, or enjoy an extra gourmet meal, which will add to our weight and injure our health. The English mystic William Law describes how most of us go through life under the illusion that satisfying selfish desires can bring happiness. A life devoted to the interests and enjoyments of this world, spent and wasted in the slavery of earthly desires, may be truly called a dream, as having all the shortness, vanity, and delusion of a dream, only with this great difference, that when a dream is over, nothing is lost but fictions and fancies. But when the dream of life is ended only by death, all that eternity is lost for which we were brought into being. As long as we have not seen someone who has conquered all that is self-willed in himself, we will find it hard to believe that we can cast off this spell of separateness and awake to the unity of life. But in the world's great religions, we have mystic after mystic showing us that this is possible if we are willing to change the direction of our lives through the practice of meditation. In our own time, we have the inspiring example of Mahatma Gandhi, who attained the unitive state and helped many others undertake the struggle against all that is selfish and separate. His real name was Mohandas K. Gandhi, but in India we prefer to call him by the title Mahatma, the Great Soul, because by reducing himself to zero, he was able to identify himself with the 400 million suffering people of India and bring about not only their political emancipation, but a spiritual renewal as well. Sometimes he is known as Gandhiji, the G being added to his name as a sign of affection and respect. Such was Gandhiji's spiritual stature that he could transform little people made of clay into heroes and heroines. During India's struggle for independence, we had a leader from the northwest frontier province whose people were very brave and enduring, but also rather violent. Gandhi had the daring to go into their midst and tell them that if they were really brave, they would throw away their guns and learn to fight non-violently. Their leader, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, responded to Gandhi's challenge and transformed himself into such an invincible combination of courage and gentleness that he became known as the Frontier Gandhi. Even one person standing against violence, whether it is in the home, in the community, or between nations, can become a source of inspiration for everyone who comes in contact with him. The words from the Sermon on the Mount are not just to be illuminated in manuscripts. The Dhammapada is not just to be inscribed on stupas. The Bhagavad Gita is not just to be etched on palmyra strips and carried in our hip pocket as a talisman. the man or woman who practices the teachings of these great scriptures will become aware of the unity of life, and this awareness will give constant strength and inspiration to those who seek to turn anger into compassion, fear into courage, and selfishness into self-forgetfulness, in the joy of the whole. Arjuna, if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, attack me in battle, and if they kill me unarmed and unresisting, that would be better for me. My spiritual teacher, my grandmother, did not know how to read or write, but she knew Sri Krishna, and she gave me the message of the Gita in language that all of us can remember. All life is a battlefield, she used to tell me, whether we like it or not. We are born to fight. We have no choice in this, but we do have the choice of our opponent and our weapon. If we fight other people, often our dear ones, we cannot but lose. But if we choose to fight all that is selfish and violent in us, we cannot but win. There is no such thing as defeat on the spiritual path once we join Sri Krishna. But if we try to fight against him, we shall never know victory. When we fight others, we are harming everyone. When we fight all that is base and self-willed in us, we are benefiting everyone. This is the constant theme of the great scriptures. We need not be impressed by anyone who recites the scriptures or observes all the outer rituals of religion. But we cannot help being impressed by those who can forgive, who can forget harm done to them, or turn their backs on their own personal profit and prestige for the welfare of all. From the Old Testament we have these words: "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city." It is the same theme as in the Hindu and Buddhist scriptures. Conversely, those who are quick to anger are the weakest, most pathetic, and most harmful of human beings. Unfortunately, in our day, anger is considered to be part of expressing oneself, a vital means of communication. We have anger groups, called by other names, and we have anger seminars, called by other names, in which people agitate one another and send each other out as harmful influences into their homes and society. We have anger books, anger plays, and even films glorifying the angry man or woman. After attending a violent movie like this, people may come to us with virulent words and fling these words at us like lances. But if we can sit secure and patient, and after they have exhausted themselves, comfort them by our patience, win them over by our love, we are practicing the words of the Bible. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. The capacity to be patient, to bear with others through thick and thin, is within the reach of all those who will practice meditation and put the welfare of those around them before their own. We do not realize what tremendous energy for selfless living we have lying dormant within us. Because we see the world through eyes of separateness, we think of ourselves as frail, fragmented creatures with hardly any strength to stand up in life and make our contribution. But when we take to the spiritual path and start putting into practice the wise, compassionate counsel Sri Krishna gives us in the Gita, we shall discover our real stature and be able to contribute in good measure to life. Sanjaya. Overwhelmed by sorrow, Arjuna spoke these words, and casting away his bow and his arrows, he sat down in his chariot in the middle of the battlefield. Arjuna, like you and me, wants to contribute to his family's happiness and his country's welfare, but he falls, despondent, at Sri Krishna's feet because he does not know how to make this contribution. Sri Krishna has not yet opened his divine lips to reveal himself to Arjuna as the supreme teacher, but he will soon do so in the second chapter, giving Arjuna the practical instruction and guidance he needs to shake off this depression and inertia. My ancestral family used to render a community service by staging a performance of Kathakali. the traditional dance drama of Kerala, in the open courtyard of our home under the warm evening sky of spring. Everyone was welcome, and hundreds of people would come from the village and surrounding neighborhood to see these stories from India's spiritual tradition enacted to refresh their memory of the scriptures and deepen their devotion to the Lord, who was always present in our consciousness. During the opening scenes, the children would fall asleep on their mother's or grandmother's laps. But as soon as Sri Krishna is about to come on stage, the mothers awaken them and they sit up with eyes wide open. Everyone gets ready. People who were nodding become alert, and those who were talking become silent. We concentrate the moment we hear Sri Krishna is coming, because he is our real self. So for me, the real Gita begins with the second chapter, where the Lord begins to teach. When we see Sri Krishna, it is a reminder that beneath all our surface deficiencies and seeming drawbacks, there is always present in our hearts the source of all joy and security, who is the Lord. To discover the Lord within is the supreme purpose of life, worthy of all our time, energy, resources, and dedication. For most of us, pain and suffering are necessary to make us grow up. Like little children learning to walk without support, we have to learn to walk without clutching at pleasure or profit. Watch a child learning to walk. It can be a pathetic sight to watch the little one get up only to fall down again and again. It is tempting to say out of sympathy, "Alfred, don't bother to get up. Just lie there and we'll bring everything to you." But this would permanently stunt poor Alfred's capacity for living. It is reassuring to remember that many before us have learned to stand up to life's challenges. The mystics of both East and West tell us in inspiring words how all boredom and drabness go out of life in this greatest of all adventures. We must learn to be vigilant constantly. We cannot lapse into lack of watchfulness for 1 minute. Swami Ramdas describes the joy of rising to this challenge. There is no greater victory in the life of a human being than victory over the mind. He who has controlled the gusts of passion that arise within him and the violent actions that proceed therefrom is the real hero. All the disturbances in the physical plane are due to chaos and confusion existing in the mind. Therefore, to conquer the mind through the awareness of the great truth that pervades all existence is the key to real success and the consequent harmony and peace in the individual and in the world. The true soldier is he who fights not the external, but the internal foes. All the capacity for fighting, all the aggressive capacity we waste in conflict with others, can be harnessed through the practice of meditation to fight against our own self-will and separateness. This is a 24-hour fight, because even in our dreams we can learn to dispel fear and anger. But it will take many, many years of valiant and unceasing resistance to win the peace that passeth all understanding. When we meditate every morning, we're putting on armor for the day's battle against our own impatience, inadequacy, resentment, and hostility. Of course, it is going to be extremely painful and distressing when we have to put all around us first and ourselves last. But at night, when we go to bed, there is such a fierce joy in the knowledge that we have contributed in some measure to the joy and growth of our family and community, even though we have suffered deeply ourselves. Often, however, when we have to choose to suffer ourselves rather than bring suffering to others, we do exactly what Arjuna does at the end of this chapter. We moan that we will not, cannot fight. Without the grace and guidance of the Lord, none of us can win this battle. In inspiring words, Sri Krishna will rouse us to action by reminding us that our real self is pure, perfect, and untainted no matter what our past errors. It does not matter what mistakes we may have committed or what trouble we may have brought on ourselves and others. out of our ignorance, if we surrender ourselves completely to the Lord of Love, who is always present in the depths of our consciousness, we will discover that these mistakes never touched us. We can throw away the ugly ego mask at last if we will turn our face to the Lord, take to meditation, and do everything possible to bring peace and security to our world.